Washington.
We need a privacy bill on President Biden's desk immediately. Millions of people are losing money, and without a federal privacy bill that protects consumers from these scams, that protects their money, we're going to see more and more victims of identity theft and identity fraud.
Are you worried about your kids' safety on the internet? We are here to help. Washington's 5-step checklist will take you through the process of protecting your kids, and will give you tips on how to set up the best parental controls for your children on their devices. You want what's best for your children. They deserve to be safe online. Our step-by-step guide will help you make sure they are. Download Washington's online safety checklist today to protect your kids online. Find it at protectyourkids.online. That's protectyourkids.online. Welcome, tech policy leader. You are about to embark on a journey into the world of technology policy. Here, you will have insider access to the planet's most authoritative voices working to promote innovation, protect citizens from harm, and, most importantly, ensure the forces controlling information respect democratic values. Hold on to your seat as you soar through cyberspace, guided by influential voices in the field who are here to lead you on a journey of discovery. Your mission is to learn what it takes to keep our virtual world safe, how to manage content responsibly, and defend the universe against technological threats that could disrupt our civilization. Please enter the flight deck.
My guest today is Sean Davis, Senior Policy Analyst at ITIF. Previously is with Engine.org, the small business advocate, where he served as policy manager. Prior to that, Sean was with Wikimedia Foundation and Public Knowledge. He earned his JD from GW and his bachelor's in English from Mount St. Mary's. Sean Davis. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going, Joe?
So tell me about your work on privacy and, how you got where you are at ITIF and the types of issues you're focused on.
So my work really early began in law school while I was at GW. I took a class with David Goodfriend and really learned a lot about the tech policy space. And since then, I have gained a variety of perspectives from the many different think tanks and nonprofit organizations, and kind of learned what issues are affecting consumers and small businesses and startups. And so I really found it important for me to hone in on privacy, to hone in on digital civil rights and equity online.
And so what are you seeing right now when it comes to, and particularly, we've been hearing a lot about online scams?
So the tricky thing with scams, obviously, the FTC put out a report highlighting the state of online scams. They highlighted that consumers are falling victim to scams and reported losing nearly $8.8 billion to fraud in 2002. And that this seems to be up from last year, 2021. They received about 2.4 million consumer reports complaining about fraud. And so many of these different identity theft or identity issues have come from prizes, sweepstakes, lotteries, investment-related reports, business and job opportunities were some of the top scams. And ultimately, it kind of speaks to the challenges that consumers are having with navigating life online and not falling prey to some of these scams, not being exposed, whether it be giving up data and information that they have, and ultimately just not really knowing how to protect their privacy, but also the need for a federal privacy bill is more paramount than ever.
There are a lot of online dating scams. I've been hearing about folks who, fall into these traps where the folks are taking millions of dollars from them and things like that.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate. You have a lot of people who are getting kind of led to whether it be giving up information or helping out a person who they meet and match with on some of these dating apps, Tinder being one of the most prominent ones. And ultimately what we're seeing is romance scammers, essentially what they're called, are lying and not telling the truth about being able to be in person and kind of creating these complete false narratives about being working in the military or working internationally, and getting folks, sometimes older individuals, to give up money and or to give away their personal information that is then later utilized by these scammers.
Well, I met my wife long before this, so I dodged a bullet on this one. But I'm looking at Aura, and we're talking about catfishing, right? When people have online dating profiles, but then you go there and it's like horrible. It's like just horrible. And then you have like folks, like you said, asking for money. Here's another story. Crypto scammers. Everything was a lie. We're seeing these stories in the New York Times and USA Today. One woman lost $390,000.
Yeah, so you have tactics or methods like phishing and like doxing that really expose consumers to have their information stolen, to, like you mentioned, giving up money. And typically you see this with the romance scammer kind of asking for money through a gift card, a wire transfer, or cryptocurrency. And it's really leading to not really being able to trust, where you're getting your information from, but then also clicking on links, sketchy emails, some of the more common ways in which these romance scammers, or just scammers in general, are getting folks to give up their data and money. It's sad to see. Unfortunately, I think that one of the most important things for folks to do is to one, not give money to strangers, especially in the sense where they are, it's not from a credible source. And the FTC highlighted that the loss to some of these scams almost doubled from 1.8 billion in 2021 to 3.8 billion last year. Another one that is I'm seeing a lot more of is the investment scams. Especially with markets and stocks kind of fluctuating and being up and down, and so many people being home and wanting to find new ways to invest their money. There are a number of people who are losing their money and losing their finances to impersonators and folks, and to take their money or take their data and information for investing, or pretending to be an investor and have some sort of get rich quick scheme, for lack of a better way of putting it.
And this is disproportionately affecting people of color.
Yes.
Have you seen any of the research on like crypto scams?
Yes, I have. The crypto scams are another big part of it, where folks are saying, if you give this money to this system, this you'll be allowed, or you will kind of get inside information in terms of what cryptocurrencies are going up or down, or here's a way to invest in Coinbase or Wallet or Binance. Of course, you have the Sam Bankman-Friedman situation that has only kind of exacerbated and exposed a lot of these challenges when it comes to cryptocurrencies.
Right. I'm seeing here a report on CNN that Charles Schwab found last year that a lot of these crypto scams are disproportionately happening to people of color. So kudos to Schwab for doing that report.
Absolutely.
And, a 2021 survey at the University of Chicago found nearly 44% of Americans who owned and were trading crypto were people of color. 44%.
Yeah. So part of the work that I really want to highlight and focus is obviously from a policy perspective, and getting a federal privacy bill on the books, but also encouraging and letting as many people as I can know to utilize some privacy controls that would help protect you and help protect your data. So everything from enabling two-factor authentication to creating more creating stronger passwords and even utilizing VPNs. I know it kind of sounds all basic and even somewhat
sounds obvious.
It sounds obvious, you're right, but so many times you would be surprised to find out that some folks and friends and family of my own included that are not always aware of not clicking on a link that, kind of gives up your information, or not trusting that you are not speaking with an actual representative from your bank or from wherever, but instead you're actually talking to the person that's scamming you. The FTC reported that at least the median loss for scams through phone calls is $1,400.
That's crazy. So now, what about I've seen folks. I've seen like I'll get a DM or something from somebody in a bikini telling me to invest in that they're a Bitcoin expert.
I have heard about some of the scams from my own personal experience, and being on some of these social media sites, I see some of those scams as well. They're oftentimes going to be in your, in that part of your DMs that you don't often go to, not the primary DMs, but the general one that you kind of have to accept. But even those we're seeing higher reported losses. I think last year there was 1.2 billion lost in scams from social media.
That's wild. Stay with us.
Washington, the inclusive voice of tech policy. Because America won't stand still for the same old insiders. Washington, moving the needle.
So we've been through online scams, some of the challenges that we're looking at. And you mentioned earlier, Sean, about the Federal Trade Commission's recent report on online scams. Can you tell us a little bit more about the findings there, and then we can sort of pivot into some of the progress, that sort of lack of progress being made on the Hill around a federal privacy law?
Sure thing. So I think the two most important things to highlight from that report is that, one, 2022 saw $8.8 billion lost to fraud, which is a 30% increase from 2021. So this problem is only growing from year to year as, again, more of our life is online, as certain different circumstances outside of privacy and just within the market is shifting. So it's not going anywhere.
It is. It's a lot. And so what are you seeing in terms of the privacy law? I know there was a hearing on the Hill. Are we getting anywhere with this? What's the status of the current bill pending in Congress?
I think we are seeing some traction. I know, obviously last year the ADPPA made some huge strides, and it is, finally being reassessed.
And the ADPPA is the
American Data Privacy and Protection Act.
There we go.
And so it made tremendous strides last year, further than any other federal privacy bill had gone. And so, as you mentioned earlier this week, there was a hearing regarding privacy and kind of re-implementing a federal privacy bill. But I think that I'm hopeful that we will see one, and that Congress will put a federal privacy bill on President Biden's desk, especially as the patchwork of state privacy bills continues to grow. You're seeing more and more states introducing new privacy bills, kind of utilizing the ADPPA format as the template and then building from there.
And then also, this patchwork of state legislation it makes it more complicated. And to some extent, the longer there are these types of delays, it's going to be really hard for companies to enforce not just the different privacy standards of 50 different states plus territories, but also privacy laws abroad, in particular the EU, whose standards are much more rigorous than ours.
Absolutely.
What are some books you're reading these days and movies that are inspiring you these days, Sean?
So I literally just finished earlier this week, Ruha Benjamin's Race After Technology. It is a really good book on diversity in tech and why it's needed in order to ensure that systematic racism is not built into the design of technology and products and services. So that would be the book that if anyone is interested, that I would highly recommend.
And what are some final ideas you'd like to leave with us before we close? And where can we find you online? My
social media on mostly all platforms is at privacyguy _, all one word, all spelled how it sounds. And I would just like to highlight it's important for consumers to keep in mind that data is big business. And because data is big business, it's important to, protect your own individual data through the utilization of privacy controls and also employing members of Congress to incorporate digital civil rights into a federal privacy bill that ensures that not only broadband adoption is taken seriously, but also folks' individual privacy rights are taken seriously as well.
Sean Davis, privacy lawyer here in D.C., senior policy analyst at ITIF. Sean, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Joe.